Alright guys, I am back again with another deck profile from Cardfight Vanguard Dear Days on the Nintendo Switch. This time we'll be doing our Lyrical Monasterio Alestiel deck. This is version 1, of course, which is all the cards up through the first additional card pass. So that would be up through Lyrical Booster 3 in this deck's case. So this is a very fun deck. It's a deck that I actually really like a lot, that lets you bind the top card of your deck and then gain different abilities depending on the grade of that card that you bound. Now, there actually are multiple different builds of this deck that you can do, some that are focused solely on black wings and some that are focused solely on white wings, or you can do a mixed build. My deck is a mixed build, though it does lean heavily towards the black wing side. But I like this deck a lot. Now, I will say up front that this deck is very piece reliant, so if you don't get all your combo pieces, you can be hurting for certain with this deck. But if you do get your cards to line up properly, you can do some really awesome things with it. So as always, we will be running through the deck real fast, and then we'll do one fight with it to show it in action. So we'll be starting with our ride deck. So our grade 0 starter is Monochromic Personality Alestiel. So when it's rolled upon, if you went second, draw a card. Same D-Series starter ability as always. And next, our grade 1 is Indecisive Sky Alestiel. So she's got an auto ability. When this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle, you bind the top card of your deck. And then she has two abilities, one of which is White Wings and one of which is Black Wings. And depending on the grade of the card that you bound with her first skill, it'll determine which one of those abilities you get access to. So your White Wings abilities are active if your bind zone only has odd grades, and then your Black Wings ability is active if they only have even grades. So there's no way to influence what goes to your bind zone at this point in the game. So what you get is a total lottery chance. But if you end up with your White Wings ability, then she'll have a continuous ability that says when you would ride from your ride deck, you may Soul Blast 1 instead of choose a card from your hand and discard it. And then if you get the Black Wings, then she has a different continuous ability that says all of your opponent's grade 1 or less rear guards cannot attack this unit. So again, you don't know which one you're going to get, but if you end up with White Wings, you have an alternate cost for your ride on the next turn, so that can potentially save you a card in your hand. And if you end up with the Black Wings, you can restrict your opponent's attacking abilities, which Black Wings definitely works better if you end up going first, because if you went second, they'll be at grade 2 by that point, and they'll probably just call grade 2 rear guards to attack you with if they have them. So if you go first and get Black Wings, then you can potentially stop your opponent from rushing you right off the bat, so that can be very useful, but again, it's up to chance of which one you get. So next, our grade 2 is Shining As Is Alestiel. So her auto ability, when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle, choose a card from your bind zone, put it on the bottom of your deck, and if you put a card, bind the top card of your deck face up. So she sends the one that your grade 1 Alestiel bound to the bottom and then binds a new one. So again, you have your Lotto chance for either version of your wings. So her White Wings ability is an activated skill that says once per turn you can counterblast 1, and this unit gets critical +1 until end of turn. And then her Black Wings ability is a continuous skill that says during the battle this unit attacked, your opponent cannot call trigger units from hand to Guardian Circle. So the Black Wings guard restrict, it doesn't help a ton usually, because most of the time your opponent lets your grade 2 Vanguard attack through anyway. So it doesn't often really come into play. Her White Wings ability giving you an extra crit is good because that can apply pressure early on, or just, you know, get your opponent's damage count up very early on as well. But again, it's totally random as to which one you get based on what you bind, so it's up to chance for that one as well. So then lastly, our grade 3 is Archangel of Twin Wings Alestiel. So her auto ability, at the beginning of your main phase, choose a card from your bind zone, put it into your hand, and if you put a card, bind the top card of your deck face up. So that ability is a +1 to your hand every turn, since you get to add it to your hand instead of sending it to the bottom of your deck like Grade 2 Alestiel does. And then once again, she has her 2 different wings abilities. So White Wings, continuous ability during your turn. This unit gets power +5000 and critical +1. And then her Black Wings ability says during your turn, all of your opponent's units get power -5000. So you can either power her up or weaken your opponent's entire field. And as you'll see in a second, we actually have a very useful rearguard that can make both these come live at once. So you can do both those things and power up your Vanguard while weakening your opponent's field, which can make a very powerful combination. So that is our ride deck. So moving on to the main deck, we are running 3 additional copies of Archangel Twin Wings Alestiel. And of course we have her LSR for her awesome alternate artwork with her on stage in her idol outfit. So beyond that, for our grade 3s, we are running 4 copies of Incessant Vocal Elkel, which is absolutely the most important card in the deck. So her first auto ability, when your Vanguard is placed, if she's on rearguard, you can bind this unit and draw a card. I don't believe I've ever used that ability a single time. That's not what we're running her for. We have better ways to get her in the bind zone. We're running her for her second auto ability that says when this card is bound, your card's White Wings and Black Wings are both active until the end of your opponent's next turn. So this is absolutely the key card of the deck. It turns on both your Black and your White Wings regardless of what grades are in your bind zone, which is especially useful if your opponent can bind things, because if they end up getting both grades into your bind zone, then none of your wings will be active. So ideally you want to put her in your bind zone every turn. Now again, as you'll see in a moment, we have ways to do that outside of relying on her first skill or relying on the random chance of just her being on the top of your deck. So you want to bind her every turn to turn on all your abilities. The reason I don't rely on her first ability to do that is because it has to stay out during your opponent's turn, and again, your opponent could always retire it, or bottom deck it, or do something like that. So it's best to avoid that option if at all possible. So that's all of our grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s. We are running 4 copies of Privilege Potential Finael. So her first auto ability, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if you have a Vanguard with Alestiel in its card name, you can Soul Blast 1 to choose a card from your bind zone and put it into your hand. And if you put a card into your hand, choose a card from your hand and bind it. So this ability right here, this is the second most important card in the deck. You use Finael to get Elkel into your bind zone every turn by calling her, and that turns on all your Wings abilities. And it's not a minus since you're adding whatever you bound off of Alestiel's skill to your hand. So it's a +/-0, it turns on all your skills for just a Soul Blast 1. Absolutely a key card to the deck strategy. And then beyond that, she also has a Black Wings ability of her own. That is an auto skill. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, you can Counterblast 1 to choose one of your opponent's grade 3 or greater Vanguards, and it gets power -5000 until end of turn. So that will stack on top of Alestiel's Black Wings ability as well. So if you have both those active, then you can actually reduce your opponent's Vanguard by 10,000 power, putting them at a 3k base to defend against for that turn. So that helps beef up your attacks, which is very important in this deck. So next we are running 4 copies of Heavenly Recital MIL. So she has a Black Wings ability. It's auto. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked while boosted. You choose a card from your soul or rear guards, and you may return it to your hand, and if you chose from your soul, then you put this unit into your soul. So most of the time, I don't choose a unit from the soul. Most of the time, you're going to want to choose your rear guard, specifically Finael, since Finael's ability to get Elkel into your bind zone only activates when she's called to rear guard. You have to bounce her back to your hand in order to call her every turn in order to bind Elkel every turn. So this is the third piece of your combo. There is an alternate piece you can sub in for MIL, which we'll get to when we go through the grade 1s. But ideally, you want MIL, FINIL, and LKIL in your hand in order to loop that combo every turn and get all of your wings turned on. So next, we are running 2 copies of Aim for the Horizon PIL. So she has a Black Wings ability. That is a continuous ability that says if you have a Vanguard with Alestiel in his card name, this unit can attack a grade 3 or greater Vanguard from the back row. So she can be a 4th attack for you. Now, the only issue with her is she doesn't really have any way to power herself up. So even with the power reduction from your Blackwing skills, if your opponent gets a damage trigger, then it can potentially shut this card down. So this card is most useful when your opponent's already at 5 damage and you're pushing for game. You can plop her in the back row. It'll give you an extra attack. Your opponent won't have any damage triggers at that point, unless they got a miracle heal or something. So it will be able to help poke your opponent one more time and try to finish them off that turn. So then lastly for our grade 2s, we are running 1 copy of Love Gazing Terusio. So her Black Wings ability is auto. When this unit is put on Guardian Circle, you can choose one of your opponent's back row rear guards and rest it. So this card is a little situational, but I like it a lot because if you're playing against a deck that has back row attackers, like say Magnolia or Roroa or Graham Grace or even a mirror match against Alestiel deck using PIL, you can use this card to actually rest one of their back row attackers and end up taking away one of their attackers before they even get to do anything with it. So that's pretty hilarious. Beyond that, you can also just use it to rest a booster that can get really big, like Trick Moon or Brainwash Swirler or something like that. So she is situational, but in those situations she can be pretty funny to use, so I put her in at 1. So that's all of our grade 2s. Moving on to the grade 1s, we are running 2 copies of Sky Quivering Motion Malibuel. So she has the White Wings ability that is continuous during your turn. This unit gets power plus 10,000. So very simple ability. She is at a 5k base, as you will notice, but once you get the White Wings turned on, she'll be at a 15k base. And you're going to have that turned on most of the time thanks to LKIL. So she can be an attacker if you need to, though most of the time your front row is occupied with other things. So she'll end up being a 15k booster, which, remember, MIL does have to be boosted in order to use her ability, so you can plop her behind MIL and make that into a pretty strong column. Or pop it behind your Vanguard to make a very powerful Vanguard attack that has 2 crit. So, whatever you need to do at the moment. So next we are running 3 copies of Cooling Heart Yuika. So she's got an auto ability. It says once per turn, when your other unit in the same column as this unit is placed, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So this skill, if you can get her behind FINIL, when you call FINIL back every turn, she'll be a 13k base for a boost. So that's pretty helpful. And then her second auto ability says at the end of the battle this unit boosted a rear guard, you can Soul Blast 1, choose one of the boosted rear guards, and return it to your hand. So this is the alternate way I mentioned earlier to get FINIL bounced back into your hand if you don't have MIL. Or if you do have MIL, and you can use both of them, and use Yuika to bounce FINIL, and then MIL to bounce herself, so she doesn't get attacked into or retired or whatever. So either way you want to do it. Now it is another Soul Blast cost along with FINIL's Soul Blast skill. So you got to kind of watch your soul sometimes and make sure you don't run out of resources. But if you have the soul to swing it, then it makes your combos go off a lot smoother. So next we are running 2 copies of Head to the Pinnacle Cat Lane. So she's got an auto ability when this unit is placed on rearguard circle. Counterblast 1 and discard 2 cards from your hand to draw 2 cards. So this card is a counterblast just to be a hand filter, but like I said, you really need your combo pieces. So if you don't have them, you can use this card as a Hail Mary to try to draw into them. So that's mainly what this is here for. And again, she's a grade 1, so she can be a booster for MIL. So the only other grade 1s we're running are our Sentinels. So we have 3 copies of Unwelcoming in Private Deciel. So standard Perfect Guard. We are using her just because she's an angel, so she fits with the rest of the deck thematically. And then our 1 copy of our Blitz Order Elementaria Sanctitude for our last Sentinel, so you can play it without paying the cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So then moving on to our grade 0s, first we'll have our trigger lineup, which is kind of a unique trigger lineup. We're running 6 crit, 5 draw, 4 heal, and 1 over. So for our crit triggers, we're running 4 copies of Wings Dancing in the Blue Skies Antia, so just vanilla crit. And then we're also running 2 copies of Precious Tune Edwidge, I think that's how you pronounce that. So she's the crit with an effect. I don't really use the effect much, but you know, when she boosts, you can put her into your soul and give someone +2. It's there if you're really desperate for the extra soul, but most of the time I don't use it. So next for our draws, we are running 4 copies of Transparent Snowy Night Baratoi. So she's the one with the skill. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, gets shield plus 5,000. So your 10k shield draw trigger. And then additionally, we are running 1 more draw trigger, so I'm running 1 copy of Haughty Missy ROL. And I'm running 5 draws, just again, you really need your combo pieces. So I ran as many draws as possible without reducing my shield value too much. So next, our heals. We have 4 copies of Soft Light Pruel. Again, just a vanilla heal. As always, you can run the effect ones if you feel like it, but I just stick with the vanillas. And then our 1 over trigger is Blessing Diva Grizael. So her additional effect says during this fight, you get, during your turn, all of your regards get power plus 10,000. So this is another over trigger that works like the Dark States one, where it actually gives the fighter an ability. And all of your regards get an extra 10,000 power for the rest of the fight. So the earlier you check this, the better powers up all your columns. Very powerful card. So beyond that, we are running 1 grade 0 Blitz Order. So we're running 1 copy of Face Off and Overcome. So you can play this if your Vanguard is Archangel of Twin Wings Alestiel. And then you can choose one of your units being attacked, and it gets power plus 5,000 until the end of that battle for each of your rearguards with odd grades. And until end of turn, when your unit with an even grade would be retired from rearguard circle or guardian circle, you may put that card into your soul instead of drop. So I'm gonna be honest, I'm mostly just running this for the artwork. A lot of the times I end up just like discarding it for a perfect guard or something. But it is a way to refill your soul if you've had to use a lot of Soul Blast skills and you're running low on that resource. It can get some of your guardians into your hand, specifically your triggers that you guard with. Beyond that, it is a shield card, of course, depending on the number of your rearguards with odd grades, which will pretty much just be your back row most of the time. So depending on what's in your back row, you can get 5 to 15k shield out of it if you need it. But yeah, that is the deck overall, so we will go ahead and play 1 fight with it. So I guess we'll play against Tatsuki. Alright, so we are going first. Now, we got all of our combo pieces in our opening hand, actually, so that is really helpful. So I'm just going to keep this hand. So we can go ahead and drop Cat Lane, since we won't need the hand filter. And bind something with Alestiel. And we got our Black Wings turned on, so that means we will have our attack restrict, so that's helpful. So we'll go ahead and end our turn. And we will let that through. That was one of our perfect guards. Oh, but we drew one anyway. Alright. So we'll drop one of those MILs. Then we really need one. And then we'll bind something new with Alestiel's skill. And again, we have our black wings turned on, so that's her guard restrict, so that's not super helpful. Let's see. But I am going to go ahead and call MIL and Malibu. Since their black wings is turned on, I can use her skill. So we'll go ahead and attack with our Vanguard first. We'll get a crit, nice. So we'll get the crit to the Vanguard and the power to MIL. And he gets a heal trigger, which he does get. So now we'll attack with our rear guard. And he gods. So now we can use MIL's black wings to bounce herself back to our hand. Back in the day, before Vanguard went through all of its reboots, I used to play Angel Feather deck as my main deck in the original series. And this deck is actually as close as we've come in D-Series to getting an Angel Feather deck. It matches aesthetically, at least. The playstyle, of course, is very different. So that crit is pretty much wasted because he doesn't have another attack. Alrighty, so we will discard. I'm going to drop that crit to ride Alestiel. So Alestiel's skill. Add the crit and the binds onto her hand, and we bind Yuika. But she won't be staying there long because we're going to call Finael and use her ability, the Soul Blast one, to get Yuika into our hand, and then we can bind Elkel and use her skill to turn all of our wings on, which reduces his power and also gives Alestiel power and a crit. So now we can call MIL, and we can call Yuika over here as well. And PIL can only attack a grade 3 or greater, so we'll keep her in our hand for now. Finael's skill is also not usable because he's only a grade 2. So anyway, we'll just go ahead and attack with our Vanguard first. So no triggers on that, but we hit him for 2 crit, so that'd be 2 damage. And he gets a heal again, which he doesn't get this one, but he gets the power. So Finael is not actually going to be able to hit. Oh no, yes it will, because of the power reduction. Me do math, very good. So she can't hit. And we could use her ability, but it won't do anything because he's not at grade 3. And now he gets a critical trigger on top of that. And I'll still just barely be able to hit. Let's see. I'm not going to use her skill right now. So we'll attack with MIL. We've got him to 5 already, actually. So MIL skill will let us bounce someone, so we'll bounce Finale. And he got his Mikani. And he's playing his order, so I got him to 11, but he's not to 13 yet, so let's see. We just need 5, so we'll guard that one with Yuika. And now he's going to get to restand Mikani and power him up. So we'll let this one through since we're only at 2. Oh, I pulled his over trigger. Alright. That's going to hit us for 2. But it'll be fine. Oh, nice. We got a draw. We drew our Persona ride, so that's helpful. Oh, and we get a crit, too. Great. Let's see. If I give that to my Vanguard, he's going to attack my rear with Mikani, and I don't have another MIL. So I'm actually going to give that to her, I think. Let's see. I will let that one through. And then I'll use my Blitz order to block this one, and we can drop Elgato because we'll be getting to one of our bind zone next turn. And now Mikani has to go into Assault. So now we can Persona Ride. And use her skill again. So that'll put Elgato into her hand and bind someone new, which is Finale, but again, she's not staying there because we're going to call the one. Oh, we drew our over trigger off of the Persona Ride. Anyway, call Finale and use Yuika's skill to power herself up. And then use Finale's skill to Soul Blast. And now we can bind Elgato, which activates her skill to give us both our wings. And now we will call PIL to our back row center so she can attack from back there. And he's at 5, so we don't have to worry about damage triggers fucking us up on that. So we can go ahead and attack. Now this time we're going to attack with Finale first. So we can use Finale's ability to counterblast and reduce his Vanguard's power by another 5k. Any perfect cards. And let's see, do I want to use Yuika's bounce skill? I don't think I will. So now we can go ahead and attack with our Vanguard. And he perfect guards again. Another PIL. Alright, no triggers off of that. So we'll attack with PIL next. And he guards with Asher Da. So that'll move to his soul now. So attack with MIL. Which might get him. Yes, he no guarded. So we might have him right now. And we do. Alright, so we won. Alright. So that was our Alestiel deck. I really do like this deck, even though it is very, very piece reliant. When you get your pieces, like we did in this game, it works quite well. So I guess that's all for this video. We'll be back soon with more deck profiles. I believe the next one I'll be doing is Roroa. So until then, lots of luck to you and yours.